What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Part-Time Watchers podcast with Keith and Lorcan, talking about everything in the world of pop culture, entertainment, movies, comic books, TV shows, video games, you name it, and we might talk about it part-time. And we have got a lot of juicy rumours this week, along with a little game that some of you might have heard of called The Last of Us 2. We've a little bit of a mini just got started. It's definitely not a review. It's like we'll talk about it.
Like the tamest or like most or least in-depth review that we can have at the minute. You haven't played a couple hours and me not having played at all.
Yeah, exactly. First impressions, that's what we'll call it.
Fair enough.
I will give my first impressions on the game. That'll be towards the end of the episode. So if you're clicking on this on YouTube just to listen to a Last of Us review, you're not going to get one. But you'll get our impressions towards the end of the episode if you're interested. Check the timestamp.
But hey, we won't spoil it. You know, maybe unlike a lot of other reviewers out there. So, you know, that's safe at the minute.
Exactly, yeah. We definitely will not be spoiling it when we do talk about it. So then on top of that, like we said, we'll be getting to The Last of Us 2 towards the end of the episode, so hang around for that. Or skip on if you don't give a shit about anything else we're going to be talking about. But outside of that, there wasn't a whole pile of like legitimate news this week, but there was a lot of rumours, and there was some good news from DC, but most of the stuff this week is actually a lot of DC news, a couple of movie things, and then a lot of Star Wars news. So we've got plenty to get through. And whether or not it's true or not, we'll kind of delve into what we think. But to get started with the DC news, so there was a lot of DC news and a lot of rumors this week. But one of the big official news things that we did see this week is that we know Comic-Con are doing their own like at-home Comic-Con event. But two events this week I guess Star Wars would usually be a Comic-Con in some capacity, and DC would usually be a Comic-Con in some capacity. But now we found out that DC are not going to be doing the online Comic-Con thing because they are going to be doing their own online event. And I think we talked about this briefly last week.
I give them a really good name. It could have been DC 23.
I can remember that. Yeah, exactly. They could have called it DC 24. But what they have called it, and this is such a stupid name because it means it's so hard to find it online. They've called it DC FanDome. So FanDome. So the FanDome. But they also have DC FanDome is like a website online. So when you type in DC FanDome to find information about it, you can't fucking find it because there's so much other shit called DC FanDome.
It's such bad, like the thinking process behind it is atrocious. It's so bad because the idea is that they have a visual that it looks like a dome. But like, is that supposed to represent that, you know, these things are typically in a dome or an arena? By which it doesn't make sense anyway. It's painfully close to the word fandom, by which they already own a property for and have websites dedicated to. It seemed like such a misstep. Like, it's a weird thing to nitpick over, but it's kind of like a microcosm of what DC is at the minute. Just awkward and weird. Kind of all over the place in terms of strategic thinking. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah, it was such a terrible name. Because even like when I seen it first advertised on like Instagram, I was like, oh, class, I'll go and find out more information about it. So when I searched it online, I couldn't find it anywhere. Like they don't have a website called it. Like when you search DC, you have to go to certain places to find it. I'm like, why? This shouldn't be hard to find. This should be the first thing that pops up when you type in the name. But because of it's very stupid. But what it is, let me see. I have the announcement information here on what DC FanDome actually is. And so it'll be on August 22nd. They're going to start doing this. So Warner Bros. Will be launching DC FanDome, which is a free global online event broadcasting all the big announcements from across the DC movies, TV shows, gaming, and comics. And it'll be available for 24 hours. So it's going to be like a 24-hour online event that anyone can log into, and it's going to have panels, and it's going to have loads of information on the movies and on the games and all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about the kind of things, I guess, that we're hoping to see at it, and some things that we kind of almost expect at this stage that we're going to see at it. But they put out like a list of everything that they're going to have at it. And it's basically all the CW shows. They've listed pretty much all of the upcoming movies. So like Aquaman, the Batman, Black Adam, they're going to have some information at it. They're going to have more about Wonder Woman, even though like that they've been marketing that movie for about a year and a half now. But then on top of like all the DC shows and movies and stuff, they're going to have some stuff in comics and gaming and all that kind of thing as well. But yeah, like an online 24-hour event is kind of, it's an interesting enough thing for them to kind of do. It's going to be like a new way of doing it. The one thing that's kind of, I guess, nice about it is that usually when it comes to like Comic-Con and everything, the panels, you never get to see them until like months later when they release the footage, because obviously they're
Yeah.
panels that are live, and people that even do see it are queuing them for hours and hours. So I mean, I guess this will be a more like a different, interesting way of seeing it, because everybody can watch it. You can just watch the panels online. Um, I'm not sure yet. I haven't researched it properly, but because it's a 24-hour online event, I'm wondering if you have to log in just to watch it, and then you can't rewatch it. You know,
Oh,
like
maybe.
I'm wondering, will the panel stream live and then be on YouTube, or will the panel stream live and then just not be available for a couple of months, the same way it would be with like Comic Con? So they want
Yeah.
people to log on and watch it live, essentially.
The only downside to that is that like someone will just 100% kind of digitally screen cap it, and then it'll just be online anyway. So would it be in their best interest to have the panel and then over the coming weeks start releasing the sections of the panels, and then obviously if they have big trailers and stuff like that, release them anyway, because they're going to be online, so they may as well get the traffic from it. So I'd say it probably will go something similar to that. Like the ideal thing would be to have the 24-hour stream and then not be available, so you're kind of part of the moment by taking part in it. But purely because it's online and it's digital, it's so easy to just pirate it essentially. So yeah, I think they'll hopefully have that considered, and it'll just be up on YouTube, I'd say, in like segments.
Yeah, that'd be like the ideal kind of scenario, is that they just have it like pre-recorded and then you can just watch all of it afterwards.
Mhm.
Because yeah, like you said, the fact that it's going to be online, people are going to like, they're going to record it and have clips
Yeah.
of it and everything. So there's no point even trying to keep it separate. But we'll say with this, it's kind of, I guess, in the situation that we're in now with the lockdown and everything and quarantine and all that kind of stuff, in the COVID-19 world, it is, I guess, interesting that DC are going to just be like, no, we have loads of our own stuff that we want to show you,
Mhm.
so we're just going to do our own thing. Like, I kind of like that.
Same.
I like the way that they're going with that. And there's certain things that I actually like properly expecting to be there. But what are you hoping to see with DC FanDome?
So I was hoping to see a release of or some details of the new Rocksteady game, which was rumored to be a Superman game, or potentially another kind of look at like potentially what a Batman game could be. However, with the release of the PS5 and the trailers and everything that was happening there, the fact that there was no mentions of any of those games is a little bit, I suppose, disheartening, in that like I doubt DC would be able to just retain that themselves and, I don't know, bring that out. But outside of that, I want to see more details on Black Adam as well. Like, I'd love to see if they have, even if they do like a small, not a render, but almost a teaser to a trailer that we might get in a year's time. So it could be a look of what, The Rock looks like in the Black Adam kind of outfit, or potentially a hint to what that story is going to be, would be really cool. But yeah, outside of that, I don't really know what else to kind of look at or look forward to. Like, DC are kind of weird. Like, they could throw something out that could be huge. Like, they could already have some sort of clips of potentially the Batman, some announcements on the Zack Snyder stuff on his side as well. Potentially, as you mentioned before, there could be mentions of a Batfleck thing moving forward, or like even the Suicide Squad director's cut as well. So like there could be so much stuff that comes out of this that I don't really know what to look towards. So it could
Yeah.
be really big, or it could be a bit of a dead duck where everything's like, oh, there's a new CW show coming out, or we're doing Black Lightning season 5 or something like that. And you're like, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't really know. The games were a big part of it, but I don't know if we're going to see anything from there, because the main console launches have come themselves and there's been no mentions. So I don't know.
I see. The one thing I disagree with you on that, but not that I disagree, but in terms of the gaming, I think that this has to be where they show
Mm,
it off, because WB Montreal. So the Superman game, the one that Rocksteady are working on, that's already been, I'm pretty sure, like dead in the
mm,
water. Like they've said that that's not happening, but they were working on it. Rocksteady were also working on the Suicide Squad game that also was dead in the water. But WB Montreal have been teasing this Batman game for about a year and a
yeah.
half now. Like they've been dropping stuff in their social media pages that's like a tease to like another upcoming Batman game. Supposedly it was going to be announced earlier in the year at the gaming, whatever the gaming convention was, it was meant to be on. Like it was
E3.
E3.
Mm,
They were meant to be dropping it in. Like there was loads of hints leading up to that before it was cancelled as well. And like WB own both of these studios, so they've no obligation to show this at like an official PS4 launch or anything. Like it's not going to be exclusive to any console. So if they knew they were doing their own DC event, like I totally get why they would wait and be like, okay, August, is when we're finally going to drop it. And like they even like usually if they were announcing an event like this, they wouldn't even mention gaming. Like they'd maybe show
Yeah.
some, but they wouldn't specifically be like you're going to get some WB Games information. Like they'd never usually do that. So the fact that they mentioned it here, they're doing their own DC event. This game has been in the works for years and has to be coming out this year. Or at the very latest next year, or they're just completely taking the piss.
Yeah,
Um,
like I'm dying for another, superhero game. Like I'm dying for another Batman game basically at this stage. So
yeah,
fingers crossed we get something. But like, yeah, I just felt that if all these big console launches were coming out, that did somehow supersede it. But like, you're kind of right. Like, I suppose to retain enough to it, and we'll probably hear more about things moving forward. And because it's not going to be exclusive to like the PlayStation, they probably weren't under any obligation to like roll it out with the Sony launch. So
mm.
maybe we will see something, I suppose.
Yeah, it could be one of those things where like all the other games are being announced in, so they just were like, no, we want to keep our game and have our limelight when we're ready to kind of drop it. Because like, look at like they've been talking about this WB, like this Batman like semi
Mm.
reboot of the Arkhamverse game for like 3 years now. We've been waiting for it, and every time there's an event, we're like, okay, this is the year we're getting it, and then it doesn't happen, and then this is the year we're getting it, and then it doesn't happen. So like, we know it's in the works. There's so many people have come out and said that it's happening, but just not officially confirmed it yet. So
Yeah.
I this is that's kind of top of the pile for me that I think hopefully will be announced at this. And if not, then they can just fucking keep it. I don't want to play it anymore. If you're not going to just tell us about it, you can keep it for yourself. I don't want it anymore.
There might be just an announcement of what it is. Like there mightn't be any trailers. It could be like this is coming in 2022 or 2023, but like this is the name and this is where we're at or something like that, or maybe like some concept art or something.
Well, that's
But
the thing. They've already dropped the
disappointing.
teases. They've already dropped the teases with like the Court of Owl signs and the Court of Owl logos and stuff with the Batman
Yeah.
logo. So it's definitely going to be some version of a Batman Court of Owls type game. And they've dropped stuff with like the League of Shadows, some information on that, and the Gotham City logo. So or the Gotham
Nice.
City PD logo as well. Um, so like there's definitely a game there. They just need to tell us about it.
It exists.
Yeah. But outside of that, then like, what else are they going to show? That like they said Zack Snyder is going to be there to talk about the Justice League, so hopefully
Nice.
he's going to have some. Like we've seen a teaser that we'll be talking about later on in the show, so
Mhm.
hopefully we'll have some kind of like more information on that. They might have like Henry Cavill come back in if they announced if he was going to be in any upcoming movies. It'd be nice to hear it there. They have, I would imagine, they'd have to show some version of a Batman teaser, or at least have the cast on and show more like outfits and looks and costumes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it's gotta be something like the movie's due out next year, so this would be about the time you'd start ramping up with like teasers and stuff.
Mhm.
Suicide Squad is due out even before the Batman, so I can't imagine there's not going to be a trailer for the Suicide Squad at
It's
this
true.
event.
Yeah.
And what's his name? James Gunn has already said he's going to be there and he can't wait to be at the event and whatever. So I would say we're going to get a teaser for that. And then outside of that, like they've mentioned nearly every other upcoming DC film, so I imagine they're all going to be there in some capacity, like directors and cast or whatever.
Mhm.
So maybe what they might just have is more similar to Marvel when they announce the movies where they bring the cast on screen. Maybe they'll just be like, here's the cast from whatever, and they announce one or two like extra kind of cast members for like the Flash or
Yeah.
Aquaman 2 or whatever. Like maybe announce who the villain's going to be in Aquaman 2 or whatever. So
Yeah.
it'd be cool to see stuff like that. That's the kind of things that I'm kind of hoping will come from it, kind of like
Mhm.
similar to when Marvel have their big events where they just take everybody from the movies up and be like, here's the movie, here's a rough idea
Yeah.
what it's going to be about, like the subheading or whatever. Thanks very much. There's your 10 minutes. See you later. Bring the
Yeah.
next crew on. Just kind of roll through it like
It'd
that
be
because
good. It'd be good to get a slate again as well. Like I do love getting like slates where it comes out and like listen, these are the names, this is the timelines, and even if they have a couple of gaps in there to go, oh, this could be something big that we're not talking about now.
yeah,
Something that would be good too, just so we know what the vision is like for the next like 4 years or something.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it'll be cool. Like looking forward to seeing it and seeing kind of what way they do it. And how it runs online and stuff, and if they have any,
Yeah.
hopefully they don't have any like serious tech issues or anything while they're doing it. But speaking of Zack Snyder, the
Yeah.
lunatic, the genius that is Zack Snyder, they have released. It was all over the internet. It was like first teaser trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it's really not. It's like a 20-second clip of Wonder Woman
Yeah.
looking at a picture of, or looking at a carving in the wall of Darkseid, and then like a quick glimpse of him in the black.
Yeah.
Like we've already seen a black and white picture of it, so it's just seeing him kind of on the battlefield.
Mm.
From that kind of flashback sequence. But I mean, I guess it's good that like they're, I guess, ramping up.
Yeah.
Like this is the first time they started ramping up like official promotional material for it,
Yeah.
and officially as well being like Darkseid's going to be in the film. Here's a quick shot of him, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
But a
mean,
big one I thought with this was that it's the tone element to it as well. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I got a little giddy watching this, but like, I know the movie's not good. And I know even with the changes put in, it still won't be great, I don't think. I think it'll be better than what it was. But it's the tonal thing. So when they have like Lex talking in the background of it, the bells have been rung, that type of thing, where it's very, like I know that was part of some of the promo material for Justice League when it came out, but it's kind of like, I don't know, just the tone, the mood, the sound of it as well, and then the way the shots come up. It seems very more Zack Snyder esque, and it's kind of good. I'm just like, yeah, this is what his vision would look like when it comes fully around. So I kind of got excited by the idea, going like, well, this could be actually quite good. But I have to tell myself that I've seen this movie, and that
yeah,
80% of the movie will be exactly the same, or 90% of the movie will be exactly the same, but look slightly different. So like, I don't think it's going to be incredible or anything, but I'm definitely getting more and more excited to see the Snyder cut. So like, it's definitely working on me.
yeah, like that's the thing we've said. Like 100% gonna watch it purely out of curiosity, and hopefully,
Yeah.
it's gonna be better, I would imagine, than the cut that came out, because the cut that came out
Yeah.
was just all over the shop.
Mm.
So yeah, like good to see, but like there's nothing really to it. Like again, it's the tone where you're like, oh yeah, this is definitely a
Mm.
Zack Snyder rather than a mixture of him and Whedon kind of put together.
Yeah.
But on top of that, Zack Snyder also came out this week to confirm that the dead Robin costume, so the costume that we seen in Batman v Superman that was painted on by the Joker, and that just set up this amazing tease and then done fuck all with it,
Yeah.
is actually the Dick Grayson Robin and not the Jason Todd Robin, which we all assumed it was, because that ties in with the
And it makes sense, and
yeah,
his age, and the fact that
exactly.
he is the Robin who dies, and then you have a hint to a Red Hood, which makes sense. But no, he's like, no, it's Dick Grayson because reasons, because no reasons. Like, it's a stupid call. Like, why even say that? Like, because what was the point in it? Like, are they planning to do something with it? Are they planning to go, well, in this universe, it's Dick Grayson, that's why he's jarred from the start, and there is no other Robins like the other universes, so this version of a Robin probably will be a Red Hood or something. And then we don't get a Nightwing either, which sucks. But like, it's such a weird thing. Like, there was no reason for him not to say that. Oh, there's it's not Tim Drake. It's oh my god, I forget his name.
Jason Todd.
Um, yeah, so it's the second Robin essentially. Like, there was no reason why they couldn't have said that. Like, I just don't get it. I don't know why I'm getting worked up about it either, because this universe is kind of dead in the water anyway. So there's no point. There's no bigger references to it, or there won't be anything moving forward from it. They've already chickened out of some aspects to it as well, where they had, like in Suicide Squad, where when Harley gets her entrance, I think one of her accolades that it comes up with, it's like killed Robin or something like that, or responsible for the death of Robin or something. And
Yeah,
so,
oh, I can't remember that actually. Yeah.
oh yeah, it came up as an accolade as well, and it was just like, or killed a Robin or something like that. So it was a weird kind of one. I'm just like, well, firstly, it wouldn't have been her anyway as well, and it's weird having that character who is very sympathetic at the moment as well be the character who essentially kills a kid. So,
Yeah.
like, it's just a weird thing that's gone through that whole timeline, and he's getting semi good faith now that this is just a weird thing that he could have just said what everyone else was thinking. But I feel like Zack Snyder wanted to be slightly edgier and say, no, it's not what you think, it's the other guy.
Yeah.
It's just like, there's no point in this. Yeah.
The way he said that they're killed the Robin, that's just what pops up on her thing. It's like, what'd she do? Oh, she killed the Robin.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it was. I think it was weird. It wasn't like was responsible for Robin's death or something like that. I think it was killed the Robin, not killed
Yeah, yeah.
or something weird.
Um, but yeah, this weirdly just brings me back to like when. So like obviously we've said many times that I love the Batman from Batman v Superman. I love
Mm.
like the Clark Kent. I love Henry Cavill's Man of Steel. I love Man of Steel the movie. Batman v Superman had a lot of good in it, but it also had a lot of crap in it. And one of the
Mm.
big things that really annoyed me about Batman v Superman when it first came out was just like he's just trying to change too much, and he's trying to take things too many
Yeah,
things in, and like Zack Snyder, and trying to just like do his own thing with it and be edgy for the sake of being
yeah,
edgy. And like the whole thing, like I remember getting so pissed off watching that movie because it was like, well, you're trying to do The Dark Knight Returns in a movie, and you're trying to do
Yeah.
Death of Superman in a movie, and you're trying to do this, and you're trying to do, like, you're taking all these epic stories and you're
Mm.
cramming them into one because you want to be the one to do them, rather than laying the foundation for a good story that
Yeah.
maybe you do tell, maybe you don't tell, maybe someone else tells it. But it was almost like, oh, they're all my toys and I want to do everything with them, you
Yeah.
know. And this is just another one of those things where it's like you're taking even the potential of an amazing character and kind of
Yeah.
ruin it, because now if they're like, oh, and then another Robin, like, now if you want to do the Jason Todd story, you essentially, if, like, again, this
Yeah.
world seems like it's gone to shit any, so it doesn't matter. But if they want to do a Jason Todd movie, you need to introduce Jason Todd now, and then you need to kill
Yeah.
him, and then you need to have another dead Robin, and then another reason to bring him back. And it's like, just like
Mhm.
you literally had the foundation, you set it up to be this amazing story, and then you just decide, like, oh no, it's not that. It's something completely different that you didn't expect. It's another one of those fucking things where people are like subverting
Yeah.
your expectation, and you're like, no,
But
stop doing that.
it screams of a guy who doesn't like it's not like, I'm not saying that he doesn't understand the lore or understand kind of these characters as well, but like how important someone like Dick Grayson is to the universe as well. Like it's kind of like going, oh, like we'll say if there was a shot of Batman where it didn't really go much into the backstory or kind of him, and he was a side character or something like that, and there's an old man dead in the street or something like that, and they'd be like, that was actually Alfred. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what? Like
Yeah.
why even say that? Why bother? Why take away such an iconic part of the dynamic as well, just to go, oh, that's a reference to that or something like that? So you
You,
basically killed all the potential from that character to go, that's a reference in the background.
you know
It's
what it's almost like,
the
Lorcan?
thing. Huh?
You know what it's almost like?
Yeah.
It's almost like killing Jimmy Olsen in the first 5 minutes of a movie.
Yeah, all right. Sorry. That's the best example because he literally done it. He would
Yeah.
don't know what to do with this iconic character. Let's just kill him and make him like a spy or something.
Yeah. Oh, that, like, again, that's exactly what it is. It's another one of those situations where you're like, come on, Zach, you're so close. Like,
Yeah.
you're so close. Just stop fucking ruining things. You've got
Yeah.
potential in
But
you.
like this is where the people like Goyer, who's in on it as well, or like those guys should be like should say it to him. It's like, no, you can't do that. You can't say it's that person. So for the sake of continuity, you can't say it's Dick Grayson because Dick Grayson's such a bigger character to this. Why not say it to the actual Robin who actually dies from the Joker and has an amazing story arc? If you're going to say it's him, say it's him. Sure, we've missed out on that story unless now we do a flashback or something. But that's the character who dies, and that's why you do it. You know what I mean? Like, so because now we're going to miss out on the idea of a Nightwing unless you go right full story. Like, it's not going to happen. I don't know why we're going into the rushes on this, like, because
Yeah.
this universe is, for all intents and purposes, dead at this stage. So there's not going to be any new development coming from it. But it's the wasted potential, and it's those things with Snyder that I kind of hope he's humble over this period. Doesn't seem like he is. He seems like he's starting to get his mojo back now.
Yeah.
I wanted him to be a bit more humble, a bit more respectful of like the material he has, because he's a very good visionary director. And if he just takes a go at a story that maybe he doesn't have control over, so like we'll say like he does the Dead of Superman, or he does like, Dead in the Family or something along those lines, and he's the one filming it. So like the script and all is there, the story's there, he doesn't touch it, but it's his visual take on it. That would be incredible. So like that's kind of what I want more so than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. His visuals are great, but his storytelling is dog shit.
It's really bad, but he's visually, for a director for a comic movie, he's fantastic. He's great for it, and it can be seen in the majority of his movies. Like there's good parts to it, but as soon as the story kind of comes on, you're just like, someone should have taken him off the story. Anyway, but yeah, I digress.
Yeah, okay, so let's move on to more DC news because there's just loads of rumors coming around here. But one thing, just a small thing about the Flash movie that we just heard about, I think it was just yesterday came out, but Andy Muschietti, who remember one of our very first episodes where Logan tried to pronounce his name. So Andy Muschietti, who's directing the Flash movie now, he also directed the two It movies, which are amazing. His sister is a producer on the movie as well, and a fan DM'd her or tweeted her something to ask about, or to say, don't forget to have Ray Fisher's cyborg in the Flash movie, or are they going to be in the movie or something? And basically she just responded with obviously. So apparently the producer,
yeah, obviously the dynamic of those two characters who had like one or two kind of comedic moments together and dug a grave together, obviously The dynamic is so strong that they'd obviously in a movie together. And the fact that Ray Fisher is being kind of, I don't know, just underused the entire way through that film as well. Obviously, that character is coming back. It's such a weird thing to go obviously on. It's great to hear because, like, I'd love Ray Fisher to come back or that character to come back. But like, I don't know if, like, I think I've said this. Well, I've said this about Birds of Prey as well, but I feel like this movie is just not going to happen. Like, with all the bad blood with Ezra Miller, with all the, I suppose the fact that this universe is kind of just playing forward as well, it just seems that now is the time to just go, well, we won't do this
Yeah.
and we'll do something else, or we'll recast the Flash, or we'll do something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's just
I don't know.
like similar to that. Like we'll be talking about the Flash movie a little bit more in a second with a rumor that dropped as well. But like
Mm,
the guy that plays this, whatever the hell his name is on the CW Flash show, the Elastic,
yeah,
whatever his name is, he was just fired because of tweets that he made like 10
yeah,
years ago when he was like 20 or something. And I haven't read the tweets. I don't know what they are. Something
yeah.
homophobic. So like if they want to get rid of him for their own PR and stuff, that's completely
Mhm.
their decision. That's okay. Whether or not he should have been fired, you can debate that all week long.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, he was fired for that. Yet the leading guy in your Flash movie, you've a video of him choking out a girl and throwing her on the ground, and
Yeah,
nothing. Like not even like that you haven't fired
yeah.
him. You've said no one has addressed it. No one at DC, no one at Warner Brothers, not even Ezra Miller has come out to apologize. No one
And
has said anything, and he's
And the
still
funny
going to be
thing
the.
is, he's not even the most beloved Flash in the DC universe currently. Like the TV Flash is more loved than he is as well. So like, why is this? Like, I don't understand why he's being protected for this, and like, why are they playing forward with it? Because there's bad blood from the fandom. There's bad blood from whoever doesn't like him. Like, I particularly don't think he's a good casting for this film. I don't like the way the character's portrayed either. So like, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's crying so hard for this that they need to push forward with it. Like, it's just such an odd thing. And yeah, like DC is just, it just seems like a mess at the minute. And because they're plowing on with it, I think, and like it's such probably an unpopular thing, but I do think they need to take a full step back and go, right, we're just gonna catch our breath and then figure out what the plan is. Cause it just seems they're plowing on now. And maybe the idea is that they take a step back and take a breath is gonna happen in 2 years' time, like when it probably should happen now. But yeah.
Well, see, this is what I'm kind of hoping that, like, with DC fandom, that it just kind of like sets the table for everything going forward. Because
Mm,
like we have the universe, like the kind of all like the universe that they were going forward with Wonder Woman, Aquaman
mm,
2, Shazam. We have this new rebooted one at the Batman that they're doing, and
yeah.
now we have the Zack Snyder verse kind of coming back a little bit as well. So, like they have a lot of good stuff going on at the minute.
Mm,
I would like the head of these organizations to come out and just kind of clear up the like where are we going forward, like which one is kind of
yeah.
taking the lead. Is this Batman off in his own universe, but we're going to keep this one over here? Like a bit more clarity with it would be great. But again, another room we have while we're talking about the Flash, and whether or not this is true, I don't know. But it's coming from Cinema Spot. So they've reportedly got a guy over there, who's a bit of a scooper. He's only a young guy, but he gets some scoops. Apparently,
Mm,
some of them are good, some of them aren't. So I don't know how much truth there is in this. But apparently, according to these guys, the Flash movie is working off a version of the Flashpoint story arc.
cool.
So the Flashpoint story, for anyone that hasn't read the comic, is essentially where it's when they reboot the universe. So the Flash goes back in time in a scene. They've done this 100 times in the TV show, by the way. When the
Yeah.
Flash goes back in time, saves his mom from being killed, and then when he comes back to the current time period, everything has changed. And in between, he ends up in this alternate reality where Bruce Wayne was the one that was shot and not his parents, and his parents end up going crazy. There's a different version of Batman, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. It's an amazing comic, and
Yeah, it's great.
they've done a great animated movie on it as well, in the DC animated universe, which is class.
Mhm.
But anyway, according to this guy, the Flash movie is working off a version of that Flashpoint story, but it's Andy Muschietti and the guys are doing their own original take on it. But they are currently looking to cast a Thomas Wayne version of Batman from the
Mm,
Flashpoint story arc. And he's not in talks yet, but apparently Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who obviously played Thomas Wayne in
yeah.
BVS in that first sequence, he has been eyed to reprise the role and come back and play it again. Again, all a rumor, whether or not it's true or not. We could have been speculating about this anyway because that's what we
Totally.
kind of heard. But if they were to do that, personally, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I think, would be class as like a
Yeah.
Thomas Wayne Batman. I'd love to see that storyline, and I'd love to see them properly go into that and like that different alternate take on Batman.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned before, it could, if they wanted to, it would be the easiest way possible to reintroduce
Mm.
this new version of Batman, but they could also just do it as a
Mm.
completely standalone thing if they wanted to.
But the fun part about that Flashpoint one as well is that if we get that Thomas Wayne Batman, we'll also get the Martha Wayne Joker as
Yeah,
well, which would be super interesting as well alongside this. But like, I wonder if they went for Flashpoint, how big of a take would that be, or would that be a reference point, or something that happens to explain how crazy this universe is, but it not be a main kind of thing moving forward.
yeah,
It'd be super, super interesting, and I'd like to see it. But again, it falls down to like I just don't like this Flash and what sort of
yeah.
tone is it, and because like the Barry Allen that we've seen in Justice League, and it's the only one we've seen so far as well. He's just too goofy, like, and he's not likable or anything along those lines. So they're gonna have to establish the relationship between him and his mother, and why he feels he has to go back, and all this sort of stuff, and then I don't know, tie that into, and like, it could be a good foil, as you said before. This could wrap things up nicely, because if they're going to proceed with the rest of the universe that has the Aquaman, that has Wonder Woman, potentially Henry Cavill Superman, but it seems like Ben Affleck's Batman is out because there's a new rebooted Batman coming in. Is this they almost pull a different Batman from a different universe and just substitute him in and plow on as normal? Then is that the way to do it, to tie everything back up again? It could be, but it just seems messy.
But
So
even at the end, like the way that the whole story works is that at the end of the Flashpoint story, when he
mm,
fixes the timeline and comes back to his like quote unquote original timeline,
yeah,
like 90% of it is the same, but like 10% has changed, and 10% that has changed is that Batman is younger than he was before he left.
yeah,
So you could just essentially come back and be like, oh, Robert Pattinson is the Batman in this universe now,
yeah,
but all the rest of the characters are the same, and everyone just moves on with that. Like it's not ideal, but it's exactly what they done in the comics to
yeah.
reboot these characters, and it worked. It was a good story. So if they done it right, they could do it. And I'd like you said, I'd love to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan play that darker version of Batman, and I'd
Yeah.
love to see what's her name from The Walking Dead that played
Yeah, I
Martha
can
Wayne.
never think of her name, but she's an excellent actress.
Yeah, she's amazing, and she'd be a
Yeah.
great take on the Joker from that universe. Because for anyone who doesn't know, that's kind of how they split. So Martha Wayne obviously isn't killed either, and she ends up turning into a version of the Joker in that world. So it's really, really cool. So yeah, I'd love to see them do it. Whether or not this happens or not, like God only knows. I like you said. I mean, ideal scenario is at this DC FanDome, they just introduce someone as the Flash. They have a new
Yeah.
casting, and they're just like, "Here's our Flash for the 2021 movie," and it's like, great.
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
I'd love that. I just love a different casting. I think that would save a lot of it, because Annie Muschietti is a really good director as well. So like, this could be amazing. It's my main issue is Ezra Miller, probably, to be honest with you, because it's going to be a different script, so the character will be slightly different. But I can't get past him just being like a bit of a bad bloke, but also just not a likable Flash. I don't think he's a good cast. So get
yeah.
someone taller, get someone wirier, get. I don't even know who you get in. Get the CW's Flash in.
Get someone who knows how to run, first of all.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, whether or not that's true, we'll find out about that soon enough.
Mm.
And the final thing we have in DC news, so much DC news, is that they have recently, Spotify have been making big moves to get into like the
Yeah.
podcasting game. So obviously they had, for anyone that follows the Joe Rogan podcast, Spotify just signed a new like $100 million deal with Joe Rogan to have his podcast on Spotify. So look, Spotify, we're here, we're already on you. So if you want to start paying us, that'll be the dream. But anyway, we'll keep on doing our thing for free. Don't worry about it. So Spotify have now signed a deal with DC to start producing scripted series based on DC characters.
Yeah.
So basically, we had that the Wolverine podcast series that came out last year.
Yeah.
But this is essentially this is just like radio storytelling in a different way. It's like they're probably going to be like 20 minutes, half an hour long episodes, maybe they're 15 minutes. I don't know what way they're going to work, but they're going to be stories based off of like Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and all this kind of stuff specifically for the podcast format. So they'll have no connection to any of the live action stuff. So it's not going to be like Henry Cavill or any of them kind of voicing. It's going to be completely, it's probably going to be like a new like podcast universe essentially of these characters.
Probably, yeah.
And I never listened to the Wolverine one. I know you did.
I did. I listened to both of them. They're great, but they get a bit boring through certain parts, I think. But like, the overall stories are great. It just needs to be. I think the stories probably need to be a bit shorter than what they were, because they're good at building what a universe sounds like as well. But I suppose if you listen to them constantly back to back, it can get a little bit boring. A little,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see like what they're like, because it's essentially going to be a completely new version of
Mhm.
storytelling. You know, it's like an old new version of storytelling,
Yeah.
come through like the radio and stuff before TV was even invented. But now we have
Mhm.
TV, so it's like, is it still going to be interesting for people to sit around and
Yeah.
listen to? So, I'm curious to see what they come up with. Apparently, they're also working on a supernatural series, podcast
Oh, that'd
series,
be cool.
like to kind of spread out that universe. So yeah, I'm curious. Is there anything in particular you'd like to hear, or I'd love a
Oh
good
yeah,
like
like
Batman
the
detective story.
well, that's it. The easy one is a Batman detective story, but like it's a traditional Batman story where it's about a murder as well, and he has to solve it, and it shows him being a great detective, you know. And I think that's the easy one right off the bat. I think if they wanted to go a little bit hardcore, they could do like a Green Lantern story as well and make it cosmic
Yeah.
and something similar to like again another mystery or another murder because I think that's what ties it together. Like there needs to be some sort of mystery to solve and it's like a condensed arc almost as well inside of that rather than like a fight or something along those lines. I think if there's a mystery that you're solving and each episode it's like going somewhere to try and figure something out, like it helps that storytelling because it can tie everything into a knot. So like the Batman stories are definitely an easy in, and I reckon that's what they'll do first. But
Mm,
Green Lantern story could be really good as well.
yeah. But yeah, we look forward to seeing what kind of stuff they come up with. I'm assuming there'll still be a couple of months before anything comes out, but you'd never know.
Mm.
They might start tying this into the DC fandom, and maybe we'll start having a new DC podcast series that we
Oh,
can follow along with as well.
you can recast the Batman in there again, so they can.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, one or two more bits in movie news, but you, Lorcan, are a big fan of Edgar Wright.
Love Edgar Wright,
Yeah.
second favorite director of all time.
After Chris Nolan or Spielberg?
Ooh, maybe third favorite director.
um, so Edgar Wright has just signed on for his next movie. So obviously he was working on Last Night in Soho,
Mhm.
which is meant to be coming out this year. It's now been pushed until April next year, April 2021, but that's still due out. They have a little bit of work to finish on that. But his next movie, and it's a really interesting story based on this movie and kind of convoluted, but it sounds good. So it's
Yeah.
called The Chain. And what happens in The Chain, I think it's based off a book, but what happens in this story, it's a story of a mother named Rachel that learns that her 11-year-old daughter has been kidnapped. Now, the only way that she can get her kidnapped child back is to kidnap another child. And so her daughter will be released when the next victim's parents kidnap another child.
It's
So
so
essentially,
ridiculous.
it's so ridiculous. So it's a chain of kidnappings where it's the parents like someone kidnaps your child, and then
Yeah.
you are turned into the criminal yourself because you have to kidnap another parent's child, and
And
essentially,
force that parent to kidnap something else so you can be released.
yeah.
It's
So
crazy.
it's just a chain of kidnappings, essentially, where the people that are doing the kidnappings are the parents of the kidnapped
Mhm.
kids. It sounds ludicrous,
It's so
and
ludicrous.
with his like style, and like his style is so like
Mm.
fun and silly and cool
Yeah,
and stylized that I'm just so curious of how you're going to turn a story of parents kidnapping children into his
yeah.
style of movies, his style of storytelling.
I reckon it'd be great, like, because we've seen the way it can be pure slapstick comedy, but like bits of horror elements into it, like he's done with the Cornetto trilogy and is Shaun of the Dead specifically as well. But we've also seen from Baby Driver, like the way the realism and the action can be kind of showcased as well. Like he's very good at doing that. So I wonder if he'll make this more horror esque, or will it be like he could do his own take on it, where it would be mainly horror focused, but there's the bits of the Edgar Wrightisms in it as well, where it's just like how ludicrous and weird is this entire situation. Like almost like the way that Joss Whedon does it with Cabin in the Woods, where it is supposed to be a horror film, but there's that whole air of like this is really silly, at the same time. And I
Yeah.
think I think Edgar Wright can do that in a great way. And visually, I think this could look great because even setting up that premise to people when they come in as to what it is, the idea of doing the quick cuts between different things and the swipes and the way the framing breaks up, I can see him just representing it in a way that just makes sense to everyone, like off the bat. But it's just, yeah, like it's going to be interesting to see what he does with this, I suppose. But it sounds like a premise that I'm happy for him to go to because I don't like him staying in the same bucket for everything. So this is just a weird cookie movie that I think he'll do a really good job of. So fingers crossed. I think if this had to come from any other director, I'd be like, this sounds like trash. But just because I can see his visual style, I think it probably would suit him. Definitely.
Yeah, not even that. I feel like if like when I hear this premise, I hear like, oh, this is going to be like a dark, like David Fincher
Yeah.
type movie where it's really bleak and everything. That's
See,
the way
it
I'm just
could
like,
totally be. It depends on what director gives it. Because if you had to give this to like, um, I'm trying to think of like an unknown Blumhouse director, it could be like, oh, this could be garbage. This sounds like it could be pretty garbage unless the director's super talented and we don't find out about it until after the fact. And Edgar Wright, I'm seeing something else. But as you mentioned there, if it's a David Fincher, it's like this is going to be super depressed and super bleak, like a real kind of human story about like people being, I suppose, manipulated by other people and not really knowing where it started or who's behind it. But I think as soon as I think of Edgar Wright, I think about a similar sort of premise, but from a more, I don't know, surreal point of view and comedic point of view, where it's like this is a ludicrous thing that's happened, and potentially the people who started this don't even know they've started it, and
yeah,
continuously growing as well. So like it yeah, I suppose the way I'm looking at it is it could be a comedy, but like it could just be a straight up harrowing horror.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of way he decides to
Yeah.
approach the story, I guess. Cool. And last thing in the world of movie news, and this is kind of an interesting one, just kind of like studio politics behind the scenes and stuff, but it's something that kind of really excites me. So obviously Pixar, in the world of animation, like animated movies, Pixar is just like the god. Pixar is above every other studio. Like there's
Mhm.
Illuminations and stuff that does like the Minions movies and Despicable Me and stuff, and there's
Yeah.
DreamWorks that do the Shrek movies and stuff, but none of them are even close to where Pixar is in terms of
Yeah.
storytelling. But Peter Jackson, who we know of Lord of the Rings fame and many other good films, he
Mhm.
when they started doing Lord of the Rings, he started up his own company called Weta Digital, which was essentially the company that does all the special effects and stuff behind the scenes, and they are now like second to only the Industrial Light and Magic, which are the guys that originally like Lucasfilm, essentially the
Yeah.
Star Wars, Jurassic Park, all the original like first of the first in terms of like visual effects. They were the guys that done it.
Mhm.
So Weta would be like second only to them, if not on the same level at them. They're that good and they're involved in so many big movies. But what they are doing now is they are launching. So Peter Jackson with Weta are starting up their own animation studio, so their own animated movie studio. So if these guys like these would be the own like legitimate rivals to Pixar in terms of like if they get the right
Yeah.
creators on board with the people that we already know they have working behind the scenes, this could be a huge studio move if things go right for them.
Yeah, it's good to have competition as well because Pixar, in recent times, I feel like haven't been to the level that they should be at. Like every now and again, they'll bring out an incredible film as well, but like say if I'm looking back at all the best Pixar films, they haven't been the most recent ones. You know, movies like. I still haven't even bothered to watch Toy Story 4, actually, surprisingly. But
Have you
like,
not watched this?
no, I
Wow.
still haven't watched it yet as well. But like Coco's the only one that really stands out to me as being really good. But even then, it's your typical Pixar formula as well, where you know it's great, and it's heartwarming and kind of sad as well. But like, it's not anything really new. I kind of know what I'm getting from Pixar. Like, I know it's going to be good quality. I know the storytelling is going to be good, but it's not going to surprise me in any way anymore. And you know, not like unless they come out with something like a Wally again, which is kind of completely off the walls and it's fantastic, but I think they're playing safe little bubbles now and they want to do more sequels as well. So it'll be good to have a proper rival there as well who might actually push them to do better. And it could be better for the industry in general. Plus, Peter Jackson's just such bankable when it comes to technology. Like, you know,
Mhm.
he's kind of one of those people who leads the idea of kind of a revolutionary style of filmmaking as well. There's obviously a couple of directors who do something similar, but just what he was doing with like the Lord of the Rings film and the way he puts like basically 100% effort into everything he does, and he always goes above and beyond. Like, you know, there's always the talk of the original Lord of the Rings, where like they could have easily got like different kind of like props for swords and stuff like that, but he got traditional ones made that are properly heavy. You know, the way he went for the creature effects rather than the CGI the first time round, rather than the Hobbit, which we won't talk about. But you know, like he's kind of like he's always on the forefront of pushing kind of out new technology as well. So like this would be a really good move, and it could be huge. But like as you mentioned before, it all comes down to the talent. Like if you can't get good talent there, they'll very quickly turn into like a DreamWorks or I can't think of the other name of the ones, but the ones who do Dominion movies,
Illuminations,
where
I think is their name.
yeah, so he like quickly turn into them who just turn around kids movies for a quick buck. But I hope he does something unique and different with animation. It could be fantastic, really
Yeah,
good in the industry. But we'll see. Time will
yeah,
tell with these ones.
exactly. And now Star Wars news. So
Mhm.
Star Wars Celebration was meant to be happening soon enough. It was meant to be happening within a month or two. They hadn't announced if they were going to cancel it or if they were going to do an online thing or whatever. Most other like events, like we'll say E3, Comic Con, they're all doing their own digital online version of it this year. But Star Wars Celebration, that only comes every 2 years, has decided to just cancel the event outright. And they're not doing anything. They're not doing any online version. They're not doing like here's some news to keep you tied over. They've just cancelled it, and it's not going to be returning until 2022. Now, basically, what this would tell me is that they had fuck all to show us anyway. And they're kind of happy maybe that it was actually cancelled, because they were like, well, we've no movie coming out until 2022. We haven't even told them what that movie is yet. Maybe behind the scenes, you don't even know what that is yet. And the series that they were working on had all been put on hold because of COVID-19. So they don't even have any footage to show or any story details or anything like that.
Mm,
The only thing they really had going for them was to talk about the High Republic and how a lot of the storytelling is going to be going towards High Republic, the comics and all that kind of stuff. But that's not
yeah.
going to be enough to like tie over a full convention or anything. So yeah, they have no update on that. Just said that it'll be back in 2022. So not much Star Wars news to talk about in terms of that. But what we do have is another rumor. Seems to be all rumors these days. But there's another rumor. This comes from LRM Online, I think they're called. But what they said in this rumor, so this has been doing around. A few people have been talking about this online. The rumor is that Lucasfilm and Disney Plus. So obviously they've 3 series in development. So they have Mandalorian, which is in the middle of
Mm,
season 2 at the minute. They have the Obi-Wan series, and they have the Cassian Andor series that they're working on. But apparently, behind the scenes, the plan is that starting around like mid 2021, if they get filming and stuff back up to speed, is that they're going to have a show releasing almost every quarter within the year once things
mm,
get going. And according to this online LRM online, according to their source at Lucasfilm, the plan is to create like an interconnected universe where all these shows and story will have like a central storyline in some capacity.
mm.
Um, and then one of the big inspirations apparently that they have is like Game of Thrones, but it's not that like the show is going to be Game of Thrones. It's almost that like each one of these shows will be like a family, like
Yeah,
a family from Game of Thrones. It'll be their individual story, and then maybe it'll come together somewhere in the end, almost like they tried to do it to Defenders on Netflix, essentially
yeah,
with the Marvel shows. Um, and the shows that apparently are going to be in the works, obviously the Mandalorian, which is happening right now. We know
mm,
that Ahsoka, Boba Fett, and that are going to be in season 2 of the Mandalorian. So the word is that potentially they're going to have an Ahsoka Tano show, which we've already spoke about on the show before. They're potentially going to have a spin-off with Boba Fett, and have a Boba Fett show. And then there's also a rumor that the Ezra from Star Wars
yeah,
Rebels, so Ezra and Thrawn, are going to end up coming back into live action, and then they're going to have some kind of a show as well, and then potentially some new characters. But the Obi-Wan and the Cassian show wouldn't be in this interconnected universe because they're obviously set in completely different time periods
yeah.
than when the Mandalorian is set. So apparently this is kind of like the new thing that they're going to be going for on Disney Plus with the Star Wars shows. And Dave Filoni, now obviously that he's kind of showed that he knows what he's doing in the live action sphere as well,
Yeah.
will be heading up this kind of like interconnected style of Star Wars universe. Now,
Mm.
whether or not this is true or not, we don't know. Whether or not, even if it is true, it's going to work out, we don't know. But what is your take on them trying to go like the whole Marvel interconnected universe within the Star Wars Disney
So
Plus?
I don't think it's been done well so far. Like the other examples I think of other than the Defenders is the CW where they do it too, and it's their traditional crossover where they come together for a big event, which can be great. But I always find that when they do it on each individual episode, each show will have a different tone and feel. You know, naturally because it's the different way the characters play. So having that character come into that show might always seem a little bit like I've always found crossover episodes very jarring in general because when a character comes in and how they mesh with those characters doesn't always work. I think a good example was when Flash and Arrow showed up the very first time, because those shows are very tonally similar. It worked, but I noticed when they started doing the bigger ones where they brought in the Legends of Tomorrow and a couple other ones, I didn't think all the tones meshed that well, and it was weird seeing a character come in and those side characters interact with them, and I didn't love it. But I do think that if they do something like this where they have all their individual shows and they come together, but they do it under almost like a blanket event, it doesn't happen as a 5-parter across all the individual shows. They're basically brought into like one show that's happening over an hour-long special or something along those lines, where it doesn't maybe have all the extended cast of everything else, where I suppose where the storyline makes sense. So like if you had something like The Mandalorian, and a bigger picture in that universe might be like the purpose of baby Yoda and where they need to take him, and then that links into like, I suppose, meeting into Tron and Ezra, who are on the kind of like the outer banks of space basically as well, or the uncharted space, and then you have people like Ahsoka who's also searching for them, and that's how they meet up. So like it needs to be natural. Like it can't just be a crossover for the sake of it. If a good storyline brings all of them together, that would be incredible. So I suppose thinking more along the lines of the Marvel universe, where they'd done their individual movies and then came together for the Avengers, that worked. So if they could do something similar to that, it would work. But that's such a huge ask, and like if they can do it, awesome. But yeah, like I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like it could get forced and it mightn't be as good. But that's maybe me just being a cynic as well.
Yeah, like I'm kind of on the same page as you, but I guess just a little bit more optimistic in the sense that like I don't
Yeah,
feel like all these characters have such a different tone that it wouldn't
yeah,
work. Like we already know that Ahsoka is going to show up in season 2 of The Mandalorian. We know Boba Fett is going to show up in The Mandalorian. Boba
yeah,
Fett and The Mandalorian obviously have a lot in common in terms of like how they look and the style of their characters and everything.
yeah.
And like Ezra and Thrawn have already been in an animated universe with Ahsoka Tano, so we know that they can mesh well together. So
Yeah.
unless they were to bring in some like completely ludicrous different character, then that maybe mightn't mesh. I feel like all these 4 characters, or these 4, like we'll say, if it is those 4 shows they go for, I feel
Mm.
like those universes and those worlds have the same feel already. So it's more just like, here's Ahsoka off doing her thing for a bit, and then like as they get to the end of her story, there's some other story that's linking into a different
Yeah.
into like the Mandalorian season as well. So I feel like once they just focus on each show first and then focus on bringing them together and not like shoehorning, here's your show but your whole show leads to this, and here's your show and your whole show leads to this, and then Dragon
Yeah.
Bones under the city and all this kind
Oh
of
God, yeah.
shit.
There's a secret dragon
Oh,
with dragon bones under the city, and the city will fall if we take out the dragon bones. And oh,
I was actually listening back to one of the clips we have on Instagram, and it just starts up with you. Then there was Dragon Bones under the city, and that whole show's
oh,
shit.
I forget how bad the Defenders was, and then that led into obviously a really good season of Daredevil. But I was trying to remember why Matt Murdock is like all messed up at the start of that. And it's like, oh, I forgot he was he was still down in that chamber with the dragon bones when the city fell or something happened. Like it's so stupid. It was so bad. But yeah, hopefully they don't do that. And if they, I suppose, if they have a good idea as to where things are going to happen, and the idea of that kind of crossover or joint up event in certain parts works, it works good. And it doesn't necessarily have to be all of them all the time. It could be, as we mentioned, where like Ahsoka is, introduced in that show, that she comes back every now and again, or there might be a link up then with Boba Fett who's chasing them, and they bump into Ahsoka, and it's a 3-part kind of overtaken rather than trying to shoehorn all of it into one. So
Mm.
is that there's a proper story and not just, hey, and this character's here and you should watch their show to catch up with all of their actions as to how they got to this point. Where it can happen in comics sometimes where you'd be reading along and every now and again it might be like Kingpin will come up and it's like, find out how Kingpin got to this point by reading these issues of comics, and there's like 6 different issues, figuring out it's like, oh, so now I have to go back and read those 6 issues before I can turn the next page. So it might be something along those lines where I want someone who is potentially not going to watch all these shows together, that when it comes to a crossover will get the idea as to why these people are here. So the story needs to stand by itself. It can't be just reliant on this makes sense because we're watching all of it together. So I think it just needs to be a strong story, which I'm sure it'll do. Like Dave Filoni, I have a lot of faith in him and the direction kind of taken over there at the minute with the TV, even though we've only seen The Mandalorian. But I still have faith in it. So it'll be interesting to see how to go with it. And like, listen, it's a strategy. So I'm glad they have a strategy in place. So, that's
Yeah.
a good sign in itself. So fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Absolutely. So hope I would
Mhm.
personally be delighted if that is what they decided to do.
Yeah.
And then like it will say like whenever they decide to announce it, they have like their timeline of each one of the shows and stuff. I'd be
Mm.
super happy with that. And plus getting to see, like we said, we've already talked about seeing these characters from the animated universe in live action, seeing
Yeah.
Ezra and Thrawn, like I just seeing Thrawn in live action, I would just
Big
freak
blue
out.
man. Blue. Do you think they'll do blue face paint or do you think they'll do CGI?
I'd say a bit of a combination of both. I'd say they'd go with the blue face paint for I'm thinking like Guardians of the Galaxy type style because they're not
Oh
going to
yeah,
have
fair enough, fair enough.
they're
Yeah.
not going to have like a full CGI character in every episode of this show. Like they won't have the budget for that. So I'd say you could like really like all he is blue and a bit of like red eyes and a bit of
Yeah,
prosthetics over his eyes or whatever. But
a white suit.
yeah, exactly. Cool. And then the last bit of gaming, we get into some gaming news. The last bit of news before we move on to our random recommendations and start talking a little bit about The Last of Us. So we have the Spider-Man Miles Morales game that we know is coming out now this year. There hasn't been a whole lot of announcements in terms of like what the game is like in terms of story or length or whatever up until now. So this one of the senior animators over at Insomniac has come out and said that within the game, you'll experience a full story arc as Miles, one that's akin to a game like Uncharted: The Lost Legacy in terms of the overall scope. So very much exactly what we had said last week
Yeah,
when you're kind of speculating. So it'll probably be somewhere between like 7 and 10 hours, maybe 15 hours of gameplay ish. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales is important, heartfelt, emotional, and an essential experience to expanding Marvel's Spider-Man universe. So that also is kind of cool to hear that they're looking at it in terms of Marvel Spider-Man universe. So it's going to be like obviously characters like Miles are going to have their own kind of standalone stories, and who knows with the game going forward if it's going to be like Spider-Man will be in the sequel, and then maybe you have a different version of Venom or you have Spider-Gwen or
yeah,
something, and it kind of expands the world, hopefully. So you get a couple of different games like this. So maybe like in between the main Spider-Man games, you have these potential different characters have like their own
yeah,
take or a spin-off game or whatever. So it's cool that they're looking at that. And they've also said, obviously, don't worry that Peter Parker Spider-Man is doing fine. It's not like in the comics he hasn't died, which is why Miles Morales is coming along. So this takes place a couple of months, I think, after the first one, maybe 6 or 7 months. It's obviously at Christmas time. And the last thing that they mentioned was that you will have unique traversal and combat to Miles, so it'll feel more like Miles Spider-Man and not just like a reskin of the Spider-Man that we've played. And he still feels new when he's swinging and stuff, so he's got less control, and you can see it in the gameplay footage that they've showed. He's a little bit more out of control when he's swinging and stuff through the city. So personally,
yeah.
this is all great news, and it's kind of what I was expecting, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like again, regardless of length or full storyline or anything along those lines, it's going to be great to jump back into this universe as well, to play around as a Spider-Man, to get a different take on things would be really good. To get a new villain in there as well will be interesting. So like again, I'm just happy we have this. And if it's the idea of announcing a new Spider-Man game that would have been full and them saying that we want to rebuild the city from scratch, it's going to take another 4 years to do. I'm kind of happy with what they'd done the last time round, and as long as they're working with something in the background, I think this is a really good stopgap. And it might be something a lot of games choose to do moving forward, where instead of doing your standard DLC, it's like a level above that, where it's almost like a fully fledged game living inside the same map. So you're the way Assassin's Creed was done, the way I feel that all Grand Theft Auto games should be done, because the maps are built and they're done. So if you build another storyline into that and using the same props and everything like that, like what they used to do with Grand Theft Auto with like your battle,
Liberty City Stories or
your
something.
the Sons of, well, it's not Sons of Anarchy, I can't think of it, but like those ones, or the Chinatown Wars as well, where there were really good stories built into the universe that already exists. I think that's a really good model to build into while you kind of make the next game or the next rung. So 2 years from when the game comes out, it's like almost like a fully fledged game that comes out in the same universe using the same assets. So like I'm incredibly excited. Like Miles Morales' stock is super high after Into the Spider-Verse as well. So it'll be fun, and like I'm really excited. I know there's a bit of pessimism around this. In that people are like, oh, I can't believe it's not brand new, or how much is it going to be and all this. But like I think it'll be a great addition to like a library, and a great addition to like superhero games too. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot wait for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Alrighty then. We can move on to some random recommendations to kind
Mm-hmm.
of finish out the episode. And I can jump in first if you want, because
Sure.
I have been playing The Last of Us Part 2. So absolutely no spoilers here.
What
Lorcan
game
has
is
been
that? Is that a
that,
big game?
uh,
Is that like a
it's
mobile game, Keith, or
the
something? Or?
game about this murderous young girl, basically. You might have seen it. You might have heard of
No,
it.
never heard of it. Never heard of like a Last of Us. Is that what you called it? Never heard of
The Last of Them, actually.
it.
So yeah, The Last of Us. It came out on Friday, so I'm assuming a lot of people probably had it on download straight away, and we're kind of jumping straight into it this weekend. So some of you guys might have played a bit of it, some of you guys mightn't have, but don't worry, I'm gonna not spoil anything story wise, and as much as possible not spoiling. Like I've only played about 4 or 5 hours of it so far, so I'm still very very early into the game and everything. But in terms of first impressions, like it's basically so far it's everything that I would have said I kind of wanted it to be, or would have wanted to be. Again, like I said, haven't gotten too far into the story or anything yet, but within the first 4 hours, like it does a great job of showing you where these characters are at this point in the story, and like it's just such a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Like I where I'm working at the minute, I'm working residential, so I brought a TV to where I work, and I was like, okay, so maybe I'll play a bit of it down where I work, and then I'll play a bit of it at home. But I'm so glad I didn't, and I waited like at home to play on like
Yeah.
the big TV and the big HD TV, because it's like just it's almost like it reminds you of playing Red Dead Redemption 2, where as you're just moving through the world, you just
Yeah.
notice the little details of like how a character moves throughout the world, how a character like touches a tree branch when they go underneath the tree branch, or like touches the corner of a wall as they're walking around the wall. Like you're not doing that. It's the characters just
Yeah.
naturally doing it, just to make it look like it just looks and feels real. And even seeing this world again, going back into it, like whatever it is, like it's now like whatever 20, 30 years into this this pandemic, and it's just the world is just beautiful. Like the way the cities are overgrown, and you kind of see it. Like I know we've seen all this in the first game, but seeing it now again in fully realized in this definition, it's so beautiful. It really really is.
Is there any distinct gameplay elements to it as well that have changed off the kind of bat?
In terms of gameplay stuff, it's similar enough, but you've a little bit more capacity for like changing up your guns and leveling up your guns and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Like this, it's kind of they've got this new workbench system essentially, where in different buildings and stuff you might find a little workbench, and you can just put your guns down, and you can, the more stuff you've collected from around the world, you can start kind of working on your gun and leveling it up a little bit there, which is kind of cool. But even like I've noticed like in certain parts of the game where like you have like a little, oh, I'm trying to get this gate open, and I need to figure out how to do it. Like as you're doing it, there's no point of it that feels like a video game. Like you just feel like, you know, the way when usually you have these challenges where all of a sudden the screen goes to this and you have to do this mini game to unlock this thing or whatever. Like there's just none of that. It's just like that you need to figure out how to open this gate, and it's purely between like figure out where this thing plugs into this lever to over here. Like at no point does it feel like you're playing a video game. It's so well done at least in what I've played so far. The new characters that they've introduced are great, and getting to see the characters that you love obviously from the first game come back into it. It's class, and it's the story so far is classic The Last of Us. Like when you get into playing it, you'll know what I mean. But it is one of those things, like it introduces you to what you're doing, like relatively quickly, and why you're going on this mission that you're going on. And yeah, it's something.
Yeah, like again, that's kind of like the things that the majority of the reviews that are coming in negative are talking about, not necessarily the gameplay, but the idea that the story is probably unnecessarily bleak during this like particular period of time. But I think you have to remove where we're currently at in terms of like just reality now at the minute, the fact that we're in a pandemic, and the fact that there is, especially in America, like essentially a revolution happening at the moment as well. And the idea that everything's a little bit gloomy and bleak anyway, I think that needs to be removed from the thinking of this, because The Last of Us, the first game, was a bleak game as well, because you're looking at a world that's completely kind of destroyed and ravaged, and it's terrifying because the people are all bad, and the zombies, for want of a better word, or the clickers, are bad as well. And Ellie's story is heartbreaking as well, and the relationship she has with characters like Joel, and maybe some of the new characters in this are probably not great either. So like, again, I think the negativity around the bleak storytelling should almost be, I suppose, almost not taken into consideration, really, because that's what The Last of Us is. It's not a
Yeah,
happy story. It's a pretty kind of like bleak outlook on everything. So like, I feel that there's probably like, and again, this isn't new. Like we saw the trailers 2 years ago as well, when they showed the kind of that girl getting hanged or butchered or something like that, and Ellie trying to go in and save her or something along those lines. It was basically I can't tell if it was a story mission or gameplay mission where she had to go up as well, and I could tell from that point of view that it's like, wow, this game looks really real, and these are pretty gruesome kind of jarring scenes, but like that's what the game is. And
yeah,
I doubt it's on net, like I doubt it's done on purpose to shock anyone. It's more like, this is a gritty look at what this world would be like, and because you're experiencing it, it's probably another degree harder to kind of get in with it. I don't know if you felt that, Jed. Like, it's probably in parts that come up as well, but that's the only negativity that we can see around the game so far, is the bleak outlook and the way it plays, I suppose, during the story.
yeah. And like I wouldn't say I get why people are frustrated, but like
Mm.
that's the world that the game is in.
Yeah.
Like there are things that happen in so far that I've played where you're like, it's tough to sit and watch and tough to sit and play as well. But like that's if the world went to shit, that's what would happen,
Yeah.
And it doesn't cut away from scenes where someone is getting like if someone is in a brutal situation, it shows you
Yeah.
those scenes because that's what the whole point of the game is, that you're living in this
Yeah.
visceral situation, and it wants you to feel how your characters
Mm.
feel in those moments, and it does a fucking great job of doing that.
Oof.
um but it does have that, and I get like certain people might not like the way it does it or whatever, and it's purely your own take on it. But I don't think it's anything to do with the story or how amazing it is. It's purely to do with your understanding and your ability to either get on board with it or have an issue with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So some people might like certain sections, some people might not. Not a spoiler or anything here, but in terms of gameplay, one of the really cool things that I've noticed, and again, I've only kind of gotten to a certain part of the world, but it's like the first game was very, very linear in terms of like every different scene you went to was just like a scene where you're
Yeah.
getting through a part of the world, and it is very similar to that. But I've just gotten to a section of it where it's kind of almost taken a little bit of a leaf out of like we'll say Uncharted Lost Legacy or God of War, where you
Mm.
get to a section of the world that's just a little bit more open, and it's like you know where you need to go, but there's also a lot of stuff going on around you where you can go into this building and you can check out
Yeah.
what's in here, and there's a lot of little things you can do in different parts of the world, but it's like none of this is a choice, but if you go to it, you'll find things that open up the story and the world and the characters a little bit more. So
Yeah.
like when you're playing the game, I would, so again, I'm only 4 hours in, so I don't know how much more this lasts or how it
Yeah.
works or whatever. But I can only recommend like just search everywhere and
Yeah.
enjoy the world and get stuck into the world. Don't rush
Mm.
to the story beat to get to this story beat because you want to know how this goes. Like search everywhere, go into every
Yeah.
building, check under all the trees, check under here and there, because
Oh,
there's
when
just
it comes to Naughty Dog games in particular, like that's definitely the way I play as well, where like I want to see more, because it's definitely a rewarding angle, because if you played the first Last of Us as well, like if you rush through parts, like the big one is when they're stuck in like that library type of place as well, that if you walk around and explore it a bit more, there's more dialogue that comes from Ellie, figure out more about her past, and you start to bond more, and you feel like that's part of the story that's not shoved into a cutscene, that has to be experienced, that you have
mm,
to talk to her and you have to find these key points that are in common, and that makes Joel's decisions like a lot more or make a lot more sense as the game goes on in the first one. So I feel like it's probably the same in this, if not more so. So
yeah, and
fingers
very
crossed. Like yeah.
yeah, and very much like Uncharted 4, when like you're traveling around with Nate and his brother, or Nathan and
Yeah.
his wife, or Nate and Sully or whatever. Like the characters are constantly talking to each other, and they, again, like you mentioned, they talk more depending on where you go or what you do. So
Yeah.
like even I was playing it yesterday, and my girlfriend is sitting watching me, and she was like, well, "You're just walking through places. Like you're just
Yeah.
what are you actually doing? Like you've just been walking around these places, getting little things for like the last hour." And I'm like, "Yes, but the whole like." But while I've been doing that, I've been interacting with this other character that's with me, and
Yeah.
now I know and understand their relationship on such a deeper level, so that when shit hits the fan later on, it's going
Yeah.
to mean more, you know. So it's like
Yeah.
this thing of like with a movie or a TV show, like you kind of burst through the story and they show you story beats and stuff. Whereas with the
Mhm.
game, it's like you have the choice to how long you spend. Like you can rush straight to the story beat and
Yeah.
go and do that. Whereas if you explore the world, you find out more about yourself as a character. You find out more about the characters that you're with. You find out more about the
Mm.
world that you're in. You upgrade your gear and equipment by going to these different places. So it's like it's told in a great way in the sense that like if you want to, you can go ahead and do this, but you will miss all of this amazing
Yeah.
content that is there. You know, some of it more so amazing than others, but definitely worthwhile.
Mm.
So like just explore.
Yeah, I can't wait. Like again, I haven't played a second of the game yet, so I actually don't even know how big the download is. So I'm gonna have to go up and download it and hopefully start to like play maybe an hour of it tonight. But we'll see.
Take a guess. Have a guess.
Get
Download
excited.
size. What are you thinking?
It's a Naughty Dog game, probably 80 gigs.
So there's an initial 20 gig download, which is kind
Okay.
of like just to start up the game. But then on top of that, there's a 77 gig download. So it's
Oh,
about
so
nine.
it's close to 100 gigs. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna clear out my library.
it
Or
is. Yeah,
I might just actually hook up my hard drive now because for the ages I just didn't have them plugged in because I didn't want to deal with it. But I might just do that now so I can keep more stuff on my system.
yeah. Oh, that's I've my external hard drive hooked up for the last couple of years now because I just didn't want to
Yeah.
keep having to delete games, and I just
Yeah.
went in as well. And Modern Warfare had a 44 gig update, and I
Oh,
was like, no, no way, I'm done.
like that game
Done
now, like
downloading
Modern
updates.
Warfare must be sitting at probably 180 gigs at the minute.
It's so big, man. It's
Like that's
ludicrous.
crazy. Like it's one of the reasons why I just got rid of it because I want other games to play. So I just don't want it on my system anymore. So I've gotten rid of it. But yeah, last one,
Did you,
definitely we're going to jump on tonight. So I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, absolutely. Hopefully by next Sunday, both of us will have played. I'll still only have played it probably next Sunday or next Saturday a
Yeah,
bit more. So, I won't be too much further in, but hopefully by then the both of us will have played a good few hours, and we can maybe do like
yeah.
spoilers for like the first bit of the story, just to chat about it or whatever.
Yeah, it's probably too early to give like a ranking or a review on the game as well. But
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even hazard
it's
what
similar
my
to
opinion
their
is.
standard at the moment, so it's not a bad game. It's definitely at the high standards that Naughty Dog have, and it's kind of looking that way. So
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of gameplay and like what the world looks like, it's above
mhm.
95% of every other game you're ever going to play.
Yeah,
Like the only game I'm comparing it to at the minute in terms of visual and like how the characters look and feel as they're walking through the world and the characters you surround yourself with would be like Red
yeah,
Dead 2 and God of War at the minute, you know? So it's at that, so far, it's at that standard for me. Like, so that's a very good sign within the first couple of hours.
yeah.
Class. Well, do you have any random recommendations or will you finish up?
Oh, I'd say we'll finish up. Yeah,
Alrighty then, folks. That's another episode down. We hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, please do give the video a like. If you're watching or listening anywhere else, I don't know what buttons they have. Maybe subscribe, or if there's a like button, hit a like button. Tell
do the
friends about it.
positive thing.
Exactly, yeah. If you have any WhatsApp groups with other people, just keep plaguing them and sending
Yeah,
them links to this episode or to
just
every
randomly
episode.
drop it in there, no context. Just drop it in.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I was going to make a poop joke and then I missed it. Anyway, move on. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, wash your hands and goodbye, Jimmy. Bye.
Of course, yeah. Bye bye.